Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. As you can see, it's just me today, but like I always say, I'll still be carrying the presence of the others with me. We hope you're all looking after yourselves. I know when this episode comes out, it'll be near the Christmas period, so I hope you've got your festive hats on and you're preparing for the 25th. And yeah, I guess let us know on Instagram or whichever platform you use to listen to our podcast. Let us know, I guess, about your Christmas presentations and what plans you've got for Christmas. But, as always, we like to bring interesting guests and talk about even more interesting topics. So today we're going to be talking about, a very, very important topic, a topic that, arguably in recent weeks, especially, has become more and more apparent. And, even in this last year where, things have been all over the place, it's an important topic to discuss. So the theme for today's episode is supporting victims of abuse. And to I guess, give us a bit more insight to this topic, we have a wonderful guest speaker for you today. But as I always like to say, I don't want to bore you guys with an introduction from me because I know you guys are probably tired of hearing my voice at this point. So instead, I'm going to invite the wonderful Erica. If you could just please let our listeners know a bit more about yourself and, about your Instagram page too.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erica Osakwe. I am an electronic engineering student. And I also own and I'm the founder of a campaign called Victims 2. I ran this campaign initially on Instagram, and this was to raise awareness on domestic abuse, support survivors, and to campaign for a law change to change the time limits on reporting common assault from 6 months to an increased period of time.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Erica. And I guess before we officially dive into this topic today, I should, if I remember this correctly, just let me know. I believe you not only, changed laws in the UK, but you are an award winner. Is that correct?
Yes. As of yesterday or the day before, Marie Claire announced that I was a future shaper in their 2021 awards, which was a huge surprise. And for me is a win for, of course, my campaign Victims 2 and for anyone that joined me on this journey. Wow. And that's great. Congratulations are in order. It's great to see that the work that you're doing is, being recognized and is having a long lasting and impactful change. And I think that, we briefly touched upon it in our last episode about activism and social justice, that, we need activists in the world and people doing social justice work to help bring change to the world around us. And it's clear to see that, from the award that you won, that you are doing that. So I feel like I shouldn't just be saying we've got Erica as our guest speaker. We've got award winner Erica. I feel like that's what we should be saying. But yeah, thank you very much again for being on the podcast. And yeah, let's go into our first official question. So yeah, thank you, Erica, for that great introduction, and for us to learn a bit more about yourself and your page, Victims 2. But I know you briefly mentioned in your introduction that you studied electronic engineering, and us as a team, a lot of us come from, I guess, a STEM background, and we just wanted to know, why did you decide to study this? So electronic engineering wasn't always the plan. I was young and I always thought medicine was the way to go. Started A-levels and quickly discovered that I hated biology. So then I quickly decided, okay, since I'm studying biology, maybe if I do like biomedicine with electrical engineering, then, I'm diving into two areas. And electrical came basically from my placements that I did when I was 18. I was very lucky enough to do placements with Bentley and BT. So during that experience, I was just like, wow, like I want to go into something in the regions of engineering. And with Bentley, it kind of directed me towards the electrical side. By the time it was approached January to send off my application, I just couldn't imagine myself in the biological side. Dropped to the biology.
and then also switched to electronic engineering. And that's basically the journey that I went on. And just ever since, I've just been enjoying it.
You know, that story is really great. And it's great because I mean, everyone's been saying it, especially, you know, during this past year of lockdowns and learning new things. I think it's really a key point in your story is that, you know, you had one idea set, you were set on doing biomed, but then, you know, you tried something new, and you know, no one can say that trying something new can't lead to new passions. And it's great to see that, you know, you picked you did a subject that you enjoyed, and you did a subject that you found, you know, really engaging to you. And, you know, especially, you know, at this time of recording, COP26 has just happened. So yeah, electronics and electronic engineering will be the forefront of the future. And whether it's we're all going to Mars or traveling around the solar system, or whether it's we're just, you know, advancing AR and VR and stuff like that, electronics will definitely be key. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And yeah, I guess if there's anyone who's, you know, sort of interested in electronics or electronic engineering, then yeah, I guess, you know, you've heard it from here. It's a fun, engaging course, and yeah, feel free to check out. We'll mention it later on in the episode, but feel free to check out Erica's Instagram page, because you might find some useful information there. Yeah, so this has been really great as always, and it's been nice to learn a bit more about you, Erica. Now, I know you briefly touched on it before about the page that you run on Instagram, Victims Too, and we just wanted to know what motivated you to study it. You know, you've clearly, from what we mentioned before about, you know, you winning awards, laws changing through the work that you've done, you're very passionate about this topic, and we just want to know what motivated you to start Victims Too.
So I started Victims Too October 13th, 2020. And it all started actually during the first lockdown, when, due to an unrelated incident, I was actually contacted by the police in regards to my situation and some of the things that I had gone through. And just to keep it like simple and brief, this was, of course, in regards to abuse with a past partner. And they initially were so supportive. They were offering understanding, patience, confidentiality, all of these things. I guess, you know, to make me feel as comfortable as possible, they suggested if I wanted to come forward, that I should. There's no pressure, because of course they can't force anyone to come forward. So I used the next few weeks to think about it. And of course I decided that, you know, I should use this opportunity to speak out about my experience, that you don't really hear the police, you know, going out of their way to contact people to support them. So I felt like, you know, someone was reaching out to me and I should grab their hand. And of course I used that opportunity. I went in. It wasn't the best of environments in the police station. It was a pandemic. It was very busy. A lot of people had things going on. So I was initially kicked out, which was a nice experience, but it wasn't just me. Everyone in the station was told to leave. And at that point, you can imagine how distressed I was and how difficult it became for me. But after another officer saw how distressed I was and called me back in with one other family, and they allowed me to give this report, which took about 5 hours in total, which is a long period of time. And that's when they said to me, okay, now, between now and the next conversation we have, we're going to be gathering things, evidence, witness statements, etc. So we'll get back to you. So I leave the police station now, and what I've understood is that now things are going to start to progress. 2 weeks went past. Of course, that's not a lot of time, and I knew that, but I had a lot of anxiety. I was very stressed about my well-being. So it was important for me to always know what was kind of going on. I called, I asked for an update. They said they didn't have any updates and they'll get back to me, which was very fair. But at least all I was happy about was that they didn't tell me they were closing the case. That was the most important thing. So I continued to call every 2 weeks for the next about 2 months. And I kept getting the same thing. We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you. The phone call was never more than a couple seconds. Then I decided to give more time between my phone calls. So now it became like once a month. So this lasted about 5 months, September 2020. Because I had 2 reports, I was finally getting an update about the first report. So I thought, okay, let me use this opportunity, see if I can get information about this report that I've heard absolutely nothing about. That's when they told me, we have no idea what you're talking about. And I was so confused. I thought someone was pulling a prank on me. And I said, there's no way that I was at a police station for 5 hours and you can't tell me, you're telling me you don't know. I remember laughing, to be honest. It didn't make sense. It just did not make sense. So they said they'll go away. They'll get back to me. They'll tell me what they find. Next morning, I'm so sorry, but on the behalf of this police station, we just want to apologize. And I said, for what? They said, this report doesn't exist, never has existed because it was filed wrong. So it's not in the system. So I said, so you're telling me in the last 5 months, whilst I was stressed, anxious, sleep deprived, you name it, that's what I was going through, right? Nothing was happening. And you could have told me that, meaning I could have done it again during this period of time, or we could have come to the bottom of this a lot sooner. They kept apologizing. So they asked me, do you want to do it again? And I said, isn't that really long? And they said, okay, could you brief to us what you've been through? So I did this over the phone. It was about 5 minutes. They go, oh, looks like we can't help you here. And I, again, the utter shock hearing this. And I said, why? They said, well, it looks like it's surpassed 6 months since the incident. And because we're going to categorize this as common assault, we can't prosecute and we can't investigate since this time has passed. I said, what is common assault? I've never heard of it. During the 5 hours I was in the police station, when we were talking about this, in this case, it's physical assault, not once did common assault come up in conversation in these 5 hours. So I said, okay, why don't you look at the evidence I have, medical records, etc., to, review this situation better? They said that won't be necessary. They were firm on their decision. And they said to me, if you want to talk about this further, then we can. Just, you have this number, call back when you're ready. At this time, I was distressed. I knew I needed to take a moment away from the phone, calm down, recollect myself, process what I've just heard. So I told myself, okay, I'll just call back tomorrow. I need the evening to myself. So bearing in mind, the time I did make the report was within the 6-month limit. Due to the 5-month period of time that they didn't do anything or tell me they didn't file it correctly, that's when my case went outside of the 6 months. So due to this police error, that's why I wasn't entitled to this investigation. So I called back the next day, basically to bring that up and to ask for a review into their decision. Called the first time, no one picked up. I said, okay, it's early in the morning, I'll call again a couple hours later. Call again, no one picks up. I'm like, okay, let me just leave a voicemail. Call again, leave the voicemail. Till this day, from that moment, I've never heard from them ever again. They've never had any conversation with me. They didn't even give me a letter to talk about the final decision. Nothing. I was basically left to my own devices. As you can imagine, it was a very difficult period of time, emotionally and mentally for me. And I felt like everything that was happening, it must be a dream. I must be going mad. There's no way this is happening. And I had so much pain and so much hurt in my heart. It wasn't even anger. I was too hurt to be angry, which is surprising, I couldn't process my emotions at all during this time. So that's when I knew I needed to channel this into something. And I remember calling my friends the next day, saying to them, there's something I need to do about this. I don't know what I would do with myself if I just accepted this reality. So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to change the law, because 6 months is not enough time for any victim of abuse, whether it was a one-off incident or whether it's historic abuse over a period of time. It is not enough time for anyone to process something of this magnitude. Within 5 days of having the last contact with the police, I had the name of victims too loaded, logo loaded, Instagram page made, petition to Parliament submitted. And that's when, after the petition was submitted, my campaign launched. I needed 100,000 signatures to get it debated. And the journey started from there.
Wow. First off, I want to say, you probably hear this a lot, and I truly mean this. You are a strong person. The people go through a lot of things in life, and what you went through was you shouldn't have gone through, essentially. And for you to come out stronger, to be where you are today. Even like you said there were moments where it felt tough. It felt tough. But here you are today, head held high, making change. And yeah, first off, I just want to say, you're incredibly strong, and keep amazing person. I guess is what I want to say first off.
Thank you so much.
No, honestly, you're welcome. And I know I didn't tell you this before we started recording the episode, but I did see the video you posted, the first video that you posted where you talked about it, and it was very it was hard to hear, but I'm glad you said it, because I think, like you said, the changes that you brought through victims too, and other people that you've worked with to help bring about this change, it definitely needs to be said. I know we've got our question to us segment later on, where we will talk about the question you've prepared, and it links heavily to what I will be saying later on. But I definitely think that it's amazing to hear your story, to see how you've become this strong, capable woman. You're not letting anything hold you back. You should definitely be proud of yourself. So I usually, I'm sure our listeners know, I sometimes can go on talking for a bit about a few things, but no, I think, there's nothing more that needs to be said here other than it's amazing to hear the story behind victims too. And, I genuinely look forward to seeing all the amazing work that you do in the future. So thank you very much.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Wow. It's been an interesting conversation today. But as I always say, these conversations are needed. And I guess what the podcast is called, it's all about picking up the mic, and it's, raising awareness about these issues. Now, Erica, the next question essentially is, what can individuals do that can help support victims of abuse? Now, I know we from your story, we heard a lot about, I guess, how the law or the law process, I guess, put limiters on what action or what justice, I guess, technically, you would be able to get. But I guess on a more personal basis, what can we as individuals, whether it's, someone that we know, whether it's, I guess if, as us being university students, it could be someone on our course that we don't really speak to, or someone in our society that we're a part of. But what can we do as individuals to better support victims of abuse?
So I've always said that the most important thing when it comes to supporting victims of abuse is to be patient with them. Anyone that shares their story or anyone that reaches out for help, it is a very difficult thing to do. For me, it took 3 years to process what I was going through, to understand what I was going through, and then to have the courage to actually speak about it. To take the time to listen to someone, understand them. And honestly, it's just giving your ears to them. It can mean so much. So when I did share my initial video on victims too, that was the first time I was ever publicly speaking about it. And to see the response that I got from it was so positively overwhelming. I felt like my heart was swelling up. I didn't know it was possible to feel confident in my own story after years of so much doubt, misunderstanding my own situation, blaming myself. For someone, even if it was just one person, to say it's not your fault you went through this, is what made it so much easier for me to go through this journey. And on top of that, it takes educating yourself too. Like we've said, we're going to discuss this later in the podcast about, young people and their understanding of situations like this. But it takes a lot to understand how damaging abuse can be. So if there's certain behaviors that people start to show after experiencing something like that, is understanding that this is A, either trauma, or B, something else, etc. Educating yourself can only be a positive thing, because then when you go out in the world to support people, you know how to do it in the right way.
That's so true. And I think we love to say that on the podcast about any topic, that education and, knowing more about topics and how better to support them is the way that we get to actually, implement change, and to know what we can do as individuals. We talk about the idea, I think, not even on the podcast, but in general, about this idea of, being an ally and supporting others. And it's just about, I guess, knowing what you can do. There, like we've said before in this episode and in previous episodes, that there is a lot of resources that can tell you, as an ally, what can you do? How can you support individuals? So yeah, I definitely recommend that, individuals do check these things. But also I think, like you said, just listening, letting people talk. I think I sometimes occasionally do Bible plans on this YouVersion app. And one of the things that was on there is this idea that as a society, we're very quick to speak, quick to speak and slow to listen. We want to get our words in. We always want to be, the one who's right. We're saying, hey, this is what's right, or, you're actually wrong and this and that, but we don't actually listen to other people. And I think that's a key thing, that we just need to listen to each other more, see things. I know through work that I've previously done, that as a person, whether you're, I've done a lot of work through my placement. We're working with children a lot. And one of the things that we're taught in the safeguarding training is, like I guess, look and listen. If you're seeing whether they're a young child or a teenager who isn't comfortable in certain situations, or, you can see something that you feel like this isn't right, that's when you need to just, keep an eye out and act. And yeah, I think that's just a key message there, Erica. So thank you very much. So I think if we're being honest today, I mean, we're always honest on the podcast, but if we're being particularly honest in this episode, one of the key things that we've highlighted is listening. And, the idea of what we as individuals can do to help others, whether that's by listening to conversations, keeping an eye out and being an active bystander. I know that's a key thing that's definitely in the last year or so has been said a lot. But I guess, Erica, our last official question to you is, how can people support Victims 2 and other similar organizations? We're going to mention one as our MC of the month, but we've heard a lot about Victims 2 today. You even said that yourself, that there's a lot of other organizations out there, or, people like yourself that have Instagram pages or social media pages that promote, the support that should be available to victims of abuse. And we just want to know, how can individuals support them? And maybe if you could let us know about the ways that we can support. So if someone, I don't know, for example, can't necessarily financially give to
give to a campaign or anything like that, what could they do instead to help?
So, like you said, there are definitely so many other Instagram pages who, do similar work just like me, where they're campaigning for their own things or just supporting each other. And just like them, you can help to raise awareness, sharing content, sending it to people, etc., posting it on your story. It always helps because there's a lot of people out there who unintentionally don't understand things like abuse, and how intricate it is and how broad it is as well. Because as we know, sometimes people hear abuse and they think, oh, it's just physical abuse. If it's not physical abuse, it's not abuse. And today we know that it's a lot bigger than that. It's a lot broader than that. And educating other people on that is a very, very important thing, because what that does is that it can inform people who might be in unhealthy situations, the signs they need to look out for, and even signs they can look out for in other people who might be in unhealthy situations. So yes, definitely supporting by sharing content. If, of course, you can't financially support a charity, then volunteer to offer your time. Sometimes you can even reach out. If you have a question, something you want to understand better, you can email them, you can contact them saying, I'm just trying to understand and educate myself more on this topic. This is my question, and they should respond to you. At least I know I do that, and I know some other organizations do that. So every single person that's ever contacted me always gets a personalized response, depending on what they say, whether it's to congratulate me or just ask questions about their own situations or situations in general. I always respond. And I think that's the best thing I can do to help others understand. So yeah, volunteering your time. And also on top of this is to help and support anyone that might have been through it. Being a shoulder to cry on sometimes is the best thing anyone can ever ask for. Like I said, handing your ears to them really does so much. So yeah, those are the things I'd say someone can do to support organizations or anyone that's been through abuse themselves.
Wow, thank you. And I think you're definitely right. One of the greatest gifts we can always give is our time, and there's nothing better than having an engaging conversation with someone or just being there for someone. And it's like what you said. You don't need to do big things or changing things. Even just sitting down with someone and just having a brief conversation with them. I saw a video on Instagram. I think it was The Rock who was talking, but I don't remember for sure. But essentially, the person themselves suffered from depression, and they were saying that all they just wanted was someone to ask them, are you doing okay? And he was just like, not just like are you doing okay? Yeah, I'm all right. How are you? And then brushing past the conversation, just being like, no, seriously, are you doing okay? He said like there was one point where he felt like he was gonna like do self-harm himself, and he said that all he ever wanted was just someone to just double back and be like, no, but are you sure you're okay? Lots going on, or just check-ins like that. And I think the last year has shown us that we do need to do that more, whether it's just the occasional phone call, just a chat. I know I got in touch with friends over lockdown that I hadn't seen for quite some time, but it was just to just make sure everyone's doing okay. A lot of people have lost people, whether it's directly related to COVID or other implications of things. But yeah, it's just always good to just check in with people and have these discussions. And it's all about. I saw this. I mean, it was very interesting. Like animation as the sort of highlighted this. And if I can ever find the video again, I'll try and include it in the episode. But it was this amazing video about this guy. So at home, he's got this dog, and he basically, it's this drawn video, and he basically helps people throughout his day. He sees someone who, you know, looks lonely. He talks to them, and essentially as he goes through the day, he's like helping them. But he's, I guess, you know, the idea of taking on someone else's burden, and he's doing that throughout the whole day. Now, when it comes to the end of the day, so the guy starts off in his drawing, you know, he's got a black outline, but he's completely white on the inside. And then by the end of it, he's like completely, you know, I guess, gray. He's colored in gray. And the whole point is supposed to be that each person that he's interacted with the day and had these like honest conversations, you know, he's taken on their burden. But the nice thing that the video ends on is he comes home and his dog gives him a nice hug. And he you know, he starts to feel better himself. And I think that's the other thing that we just, you know, have to highlight, that a lot of these conversations can be quite hard. You know, they can not only bring up difficult memories for the person that you're talking to, but maybe you as the individual might have, you know, bad experiences yourselves that you've not been able to talk about. But I think, like what Erica was saying here, like in that video, you know, just using your own support network, whether that's your friends or your family, or, you know, even your colleagues, you know, sometimes just having these people in our lives that we can just turn to and talk to, can just help us, you know, I guess, like I said before, just lighten the burden, because there's nothing, like I said at the start, better than a good, honest conversation. But yeah, thank you very much, Erica.
No problem.
Yeah, it's been an amazing discussion today. We've really dived into a very important topic, and, you know, as our listeners or watchers on YouTube, you know, we've given you a lot of information to take away with you. But as always, you know that we can't end the episode without our two amazing sections, our question for us section and our NC of the month section. So we're going to start off with the question for us first. So I'm now going to pass the mic over to Erica to ask me the question that she's prepared for.
Okay, so the question is, why is the conversation on domestic abuse amongst young people a taboo subject?
Now, I think first off, that's a great question to ask, and I feel like when I first saw it, I was just like, you know, this definitely could be a dissertation question in itself. But I think the reason why is, and again, let me just clarify this before, you know, I don't need people in the comments saying that Jeffrey's saying things that anything like that. I'm not an expert in this. Let me just first off, I say this, but I think for young people, I'd say there's a few reasons why it's like a taboo. I think one is I'm a guy, so I'll just say this as a guy. But sometimes I feel like as guys, we find it hard to have difficult conversations about like subjects like this, whether it's because, you know, it brings up bad memories of whether, you know, the individual themselves or their parents were abused, or you know, whether it's you know, I guess you know, they might have known someone like a friend, for example, but I think partly because of the memories that it can bring is probably maybe one of the first reasons. I think the second reason is, and I know it's been, you know, linked recently with you know, all the things that have happened with like women in clubs and all the bad things that have been happening with that. But I think it's that idea of, you know, keeping your friends accountable. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, if a person, whether it's a guy or a girl, their friend is abusive, that everyone's just like neglecting it or won't call them out on it. But I think with young people, for myself, there's, and, you know, it wasn't that I knew someone that was being abused by a partner or anything, but I think as young people, we're always so concerned with our image, and we don't want to be like the one who's out of the group. So if we see our friend do something wrong, we might be like, as, you know, if we go into a smaller group, so like if it's me and like two people, you know, having a conversation, they might be like, hey, you know, what this person did, I don't really agree with. And they're like, yeah, no, neither do I. But then if it's in a bigger group setting, they might not, you know, raise it up and be like, you know, this person, like, Mike, what you did wasn't great. but yeah, I think that's part of the reason that young people, especially like teenagers, I feel like, but to be honest, it's something that I think all young, especially in this age, and I think that's the other thing with social media, where when we're young, we're all focused on like, how many followers do we have? How many likes do my posts get? What hashtags or what filters should I be using? Things like that. Should I do the bold head filter or using the dog sticking out tongue filter? Like things like that. It's all that we're focused on, and we don't want to be, I guess, outside of the group. Now, I think, and that's why when we did our like university lectures, university episodes, where we talk about, I guess, going to university and like graduating, like one of the things that I feel like everyone can agree on is university gives you that space to see and develop as a person. So, you know, and I feel like that was definitely true for me at university. I'd say like year 13, but definitely at university. You're like, no, I don't need to fit in the crowd. Like, if I see something that's wrong, I'm going to call it, I'm going to call it out. And I think it's easier at university because there's a wider range of people. So, at secondary school, it's only the people that are in your year. If you're at college, yeah, there's a lot more people. But again, you're probably only going to interact with the people in your classes. And when you're at university, you don't even need to be in the same class or even in the same year. There's like people in first year who are friends with master students or PhD students who are best friends with like a third year or second year student. And you're essentially like growing into, I guess, not only your personalities, but I guess who you want to be. And I feel like university gives you that space. But I feel like you said, that especially in secondary school, maybe sixth form, it's touched on, but abuse isn't really addressed. It's not like, It's not taught. If it is, it's usually a one-off thing. I know my school had like focus days where we touched on topics. I think it was year 11 or 12. We had a focus day on. It was basically like sexual education in general, but it was more to do with, like there was one like one thing that we did do, which I thought was definitely good, and I probably would recommend that other schools did. I don't know if the video is available even now, but the BBC Three did like a group. It was like I guess sort of like a social experiment. They brought like 10 guys, 10 girls into this like big house. And essentially they showed them, I think it was like a weekend thing or like a week thing. It was a 3-part series, and it was all about the topic of, is this rape? And it was supposed to be about a story about a guy who was drunk at a party. He engaged in like sexual activities with a girl. And the question was it rape, or was there consent given, or things like that? Now, like without going into the whole episodes or the whole series, I think that was interesting for us to do as like a group, because they did it so our school did it in the exact same format. So I think when they showed us the series, they split us off into guys and girls, and it was like the discussions that came from that. So the teacher that did it for us, at least for our group, was a man. So he was talking about, what do you guys think? And I guess for us, we felt like, hey, we could, be honest. It's not awkward because, it's like this, like what it was dealing with was a very sensitive topic. And I feel like that's where it was actually quite, like, I guess, like it was good that they addressed that, because I feel like if more schools do that, it would be good. And I briefly touched upon it in our last episode on the idea of like activism and social justice, that I know, especially because of what's happened in the last year, universities, at least like Brunel, for example, have been doing stuff on like being an active bystander. How can we, spot, I know Brunel did like a focus group about race, and like have any students within the university experience racial discrimination, or racism itself, whether that's, getting feedback from lecturers or, responses to email or things like that. And I think that's where like that identifying needs to happen at like an earlier stage, when it's, I guess, and I guess this would be the last point. I think for young people, it's hard because we also try and base it off what we see on TV. Now, I'm not saying that okay, I mean, I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure you, I've never watched it. I only know the brief basis of season 1. But I know that deals with a lot of stuff. Like he's a stalker. So it deals with a lot of stuff in itself. But like things like that, if a young person watches that and they might not know the whole premise or understand like the repercussions of that, but think, hey, that's okay. Like I know even my sister and I were talking about like a few weeks ago that like I don't know if you've watched it yourself, Erica, but Riverdale was like a show that I like the first season I thought was really good because it was like this whole sorry, just give me 1 minute. I'm going to pause the recording because I'll resume it, give it a couple seconds and then just continue from there. So on the topic of TV shows, like I was saying, Riverdale, the first season, I thought I really liked it because I felt like it felt realistic. But then as it went on, it just became like, I guess, its own thing. And then like one of the things that I eventually, like me as an individual, like I guess people know that I love to watch, like I can bear with a series, even if it's not good. Like if I feel like, hey, I can try, but I couldn't Riverdale because I just told me and my sister were just like, it's just reached a point where it's not realistic anymore. And I feel like young people, seeing on TV that, whether it's Riverdale or other teenage dramas that these guys are like, whether it's sleeping with each other like 24/7 or like, I don't know, being in like wrong relationships, where sometimes, on shows, they address it in like a powerful way. And they do say, like, hey, they call them out. But I think the issue is like, they can't do as much because obviously with the age rating. But that thing is that schools can have these discussions and can help that. I know, oh gosh, I need to remember the show's name. But I know I haven't watched it. But there was the show with Michaela Cole. I don't remember. It was on BBC and it's going to annoy me. But it sort of.
Oh my gosh, I do know it. Yeah. And I've watched it.
I don't remember.
I've just forgotten the name.
Yeah. We'll put it up as a like on the screen. But I would definitely recommend that people watch it because I know my sister watched it and she said like it just did it. Like it addressed all these topics in like a good way. And I just feel like that's... Oh yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I'd even say for myself, it helped me understand a lot that happened to me a lot better. Some things that I like let slide or things that I try to justify and stuff like that, seeing it portrayed on the TV and the way it was in an educational way, it wasn't just TV drama or, a quick and quickly made for entertainment purposes. There was actual things to learn from it. It was for educational purposes. And that's why whenever people told me to, recommend something they could do to educate themselves, I always gave them that show. I just wish I remembered the name.
I've just looked it up. It's I May Destroy You.
Yes, there we go. Yes, I've told so many people to watch it because the amount that I learned from that show, it's a couple episodes, but it's so incredibly powerful. And I'm glad she got the recognition she deserves from it because I think she executed it. She didn't make it boring, in quotation marks, boring. I don't think things like this are boring, but for anyone that doesn't understand, it might be boring to them. But she's done it in a way where it's realistic to the world that we live in. Everything she was doing is what people do in this world. It's not, sci-fi. It's not huge action and stuff like that. It was just normal life. This is the life a lot of people live. And when it comes to shows, if you have soaps like Emmerdale and EastEnders, they do 100% cover things like abuse, assault, etc. But there's always done in the family dynamic or an old couple. You never see it amongst young people or anyone that seems under the age of 30. So when, of course, I was going through it, a lot of people, who reached out to me to tell me, they're so sorry that they didn't say anything. They did notice this and that. it was because they couldn't understand or grasp that it can happen to anyone. And I think that's what a lot of shows fail to do, is to expand outside this, what I would call, there's a word, but when you like stereotype a situation, like they've stereotyped it that abuse is just for family, or abuse is just within couples. They need to expand outside of that. And once they do that, and once they, like you said, go into schools and actually educate young people about it, then that's when I feel like the real change can come in, because it starts from young. Once you're able to make a young person or a child understand that these things are wrong, it's a more successful preventative measure, rather than wait until it happens to them and then telling them, oh, like, this is wrong, this is how we're going to help you. If you tackle it at the core, which is the young age and the way they develop and understand life and how they should be treated, then it helps to prevent it in the future, or it helps them to look out for it in the future.
No, that's definitely true. And I feel like, like you're saying about addressing a young age, that video that I was talking about that BBC Three did about Is This Rape? I know, like, on the day, it, like, as like a year group, it kind of just like shocked us all, because I guess we were all like, at least as guys, we were just like, we were just like, yeah, this is then genuinely gives us a lot to think about, and even girls, a lot to think about as well, because I think, like you said, there's always this like stereotypical, like, like you said at the start, the only form of abuse that can happen is domestic abuse or physical abuse. There's not emotional abuse or anything like, or neglect, for example. People think, oh, like you said, it can only happen, if someone's in a couple or at an old age, or within families, but it can never happen in other, examples. And I think, like, for us, and one other thing, that it can only happen, it can only be a men abusing and women can't abuse.
There you go. Yep.
And that's another thing. And I feel like that's where the issue lies, is, like you said, like on TV, we see these, even if the show addresses it, like we see it only within those like stereotypical things. And one of the things that, like video, the series that BBC Three did, I've watched that probably like 2017 or 2018, but that's still like one of the stories like still sticks with me today. I know I've been adding loads to this list, but like I said, this question could literally have been the whole episode. And I think that's the other thing as well, is that young people, and it's wrong to say, but young people generally joke around with terms that they don't know about. And young people will say things that they don't know the meaning of. And I know loads of cultures, have sayings that talk about this, that, you shouldn't be saying words that you don't understand. And I think that's the issue, that, it then starts to appear like, and it's wrong to say, but like the boy who cried wolf. So whether it's, someone at a young age is in a relationship and they keep on, and it's wrong to even make jokes like this, but making jokes about being abused or things like that, where, if it was, a uni relationship, and let's say a lecturer heard that, then that lecturer is good. Like, that's a whole different thing. Like, even lecturer aside, as a friend, like, when you're young, you might think, oh, this person's just taking the mick or exaggerating or whatever. But like, when you're in your, like, I guess once you're at uni in your 20s, or like when you're older, you'll definitely like be like, no, like, if the person's saying this, I need to know more to know whether, to figure out what's going on. But when you're young, you're just like, I don't care. You've got this whole fixation of your life is the most important, I don't care about anyone else. And I think that's one of the other issues. And it's just like what you said, just having these conversations, it doesn't even need to be like, hey, and I think that's the other thing as well. It doesn't need to be like a forced, like, you need to be there, or, you're not gonna, like, I don't know, like, go into year 12, or you need to be there, or you're not gonna be able to go on like a school trip or whatever. It should be like an encouraged thing, and it should be encouraged because, hey,
we want to teach you. And unfortunately, it's the hard thing of life. Whether, there's the whole year turns up or 5 people to turn up, that, you just have to work with who you got. Because if you force people to turn up, then they're just gonna shut off. They're gonna, even if, they're not on their phones when someone's talking, or, they're not engaging in the activity, they're just gonna be like, I'm forced to be here, I'm not interested. And just like encouraging students, and just doing it like on a regular, it shouldn't just be like I said, like with mine, I know it was just a focus day. It was only the one day that it was talked about, but it should be more of like a, regular thing. It doesn't necessarily, like I said, it doesn't need to be like every week or every month or, anything like that. But it could, like, the schools I know are busy already, and they just need to just, I guess, figure out when's the best time within their individual school schedules to try and like do this. Because like you said, they're preparing essentially the next generation. And, if we want things to change, it's gonna, while yes, laws and I guess us as adults need to ensure that change happens as well. There's no point in us, saying, hey, we're going to change stuff, and then 15 years time, it's all gone back, or it's completely become worse. But yeah, I think those would be my points on the topic, and those would be my advice. Just listen, talk with friends, go past that just the talking stage. I think someone gave like a task, and if you're listening, you could try this yourself. Be the one in a conversation to ask less questions. To ask more questions, and less speaking. So in the conversation, once you've had it with an individual, whether it's like your friend, family, whatever, can you come out and say, yeah, actually, I was listening to them. They told me this happened in their day, or this, this is what their thing is. And just think about like, how can you, if that's not the case, then how can you, become like that? Because that's the only way, I guess people will eventually open up. And then lastly, like we said, it's just about this educational changes, encouraging it from a young age. Even like I said, it's great the universities are doing more things to promote being an active bystander, getting engaged in stuff that they see that goes wrong. But again, at university, like, it's unlikely. You might change a few things, but it's unlikely you're going to change your whole personality. Whereas, at a younger age, if you're telling kids this is right, this is wrong, they're more likely to listen. There's less of that pressure. I know even as a university student that, sometimes the union might organize stuff and I'll see it and I'll be like, this is really interesting, but I've got loads of coursework and I know I can't attend and it's not recorded. So unfortunately I can't go. But, at secondary school, they're there for like hours. Like, there's loads of time in the day that you can organize things. There's days where you can make it, discuss it about that. Even if it's like in the morning registration bits, that's 25 minutes where I know there were times in morning registration, we were just sitting around doing nothing or just talking about rubbish. And I know that that's like useful time that can be used. And I'd say lastly, with the school thing, even the university thing, having those I think they're like anonymous report boxes. And just having those, and just using those as a space for any students who might not feel comfortable about talking about it, directly. Or even as, if your friend can't talk to you about it, just encouraging, hey, there's this service that you can use. It's anonymous. You can talk there. I know online, there's, I think it's called the White Wall. I think that's the name. I know it's used by uni students. Again, if I've got it wrong, I'll put up the right name. But that's like an anonymous posting board that students can like put any issue. I know it's normally aimed at uni students, but I think it might also be aimed for college and sixth form. But it allows students to like put any issue they're going on. You don't have to be your name, you don't have to do anything, but the people who respond are like trained professionals. So they'll be able to tell you, hey, like, you need to speak to this person, or, they'll respond to me like, hey, thanks for letting us know, it's really sad this has happened, or, we can offer you this support, or if you want to have a time to talk, you can talk here. But yeah, I think doing stuff like that, having those spaces allows individuals who might not necessarily feel at the stage to talk about it to a group or to talk about it to more than one person, just having that as an individual. And whether that's, you as a teacher, just always keep an eye on your students and, letting your students know that you can be, I guess they can come to you if they need to talk. I know I said it before, but I've had a few teachers at secondary school that definitely helped me go through secondary school. And if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. But yeah, just having those talks and being that open is always a good thing. So yeah, thank you for the question. And I know I've talked for a lot, guys, but like I said, this question was a very powerful question, and I felt that I should address it accordingly. But now, as always, we've come to our next favorite segment, the MC of the Month segment. Now, our MC of the Month for this episode, as I said, it could have been a whole host of organizations. And I just want to highlight that, as I did in the last episode, that even though I'm picking one as our MC of the Month, there are a lot of individuals and organizations, as you've clearly heard today, that do amazing work to help victims of abuse and, raise awareness of the different types of abuse as well. But the one I'm going to be talking about today is the United Nations Women UK team, specifically the UK team, because obviously, we're in the UK, but it's essentially, there are, different brands for different countries around the world. Now, for anyone who doesn't know about them, they do a lot of program work to help reach, women, children, and marginalized people. They do a lot of work and they've got loads of opportunities on their website. So I'd recommend, if there's anyone who's listening and, wants to, after this episode, wants to become an active member, whether that's through volunteering or promotion, please do check out their social media pages and their website, because they do have a lot on there that they use to help talk about it. But they also address the idea of, women, gender inequality. And, they say on their website that they're the only global organization working to make gender equality a reality. As you can see, this bit of a tongue twister, in every way. They don't just want it to be from programs, whether they implement or governments implement. They want it to be programs that can help these vulnerable girls and women, changing attitudes, like we were saying today, whether that's with young people or, elderly people in a population. And finally, helping governments design gender equality. They've got this nice quote on the website, which I think sums up the amazing work that they do. Let's unite for every woman. The gender equality movement starts with you. And they've got a mission statement. They say how they do it. They say, and I think we can all agree, that their mission is to ensure that every girl and woman, whether that's in the UK or around the world, has access to safety, choice, and a voice. They are creating global change with governments, individuals, communities. And I'd recommend, if anyone does want to be involved or be a part of this, amazing movement, please do check out their website. Share it there. But yeah, if you do feel inclined, their link will be on their MC of the Month page. But also, they have an Instagram account, and if you type in UN Women UK or UN Women, you'll go onto their page as well. But yeah, that's our MC of the Month, and we have officially. I know. Sorry, you guys are probably sorry to hear this, but we have come to the end of the episode. Now, first off, I just want to say, I know I've said it throughout the whole episode, but I want to say a huge thank you. And I think I know there was a round of applause last episode, and it might have thrown a few of you off, but there'll definitely be another one this episode, because it's like I said, Erica, the work that you're doing is amazing. How far you've come. You've said you've come in your journey is amazing. And I'm sure our listeners have been grateful to hear more about your story and to learn more about what they could do. But I think it's just it's important to highlight that you've gone through, I guess, such a hardship, and you've come out on this other side. And I know one of the things that my dad always says is that, you know, when it comes to hardships, when you're going through them, you know, it sucks. It's the worst thing ever. But when you come out and, you know, you can tell an individual who's going through the same thing, or, you know, is feeling like they can't go on, that, hey, look, you know, I've been where you are, I've come out, and that means that if I can do it, you can do it. And I think that's just the amazing thing about, you know, Victims 2 and about other organizations like it. So yeah, I guess huge thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you so much.
No problem. I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. And before we let you go, we just have one last thing to just ask. If any of our listeners, you know, want to know more about Victims 2 or maybe about yourself, where should they go?
So my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn is all at Victims2. And I also have a website, victims2.com.
Wow, thank you. As you can see, you won't miss her on any social media platform. So just make sure.
You can even email. So victims2@outlook.co.uk.
Wow.
Or is it .com? Try either. Put both.
But like we said, if you do want to get in contact, you've got all the contact details there. As always, it's been a pleasure to have you, our wonderful listeners or watchers on YouTube, on the show. If you really enjoyed this episode, a like and subscribe is always appreciated, and click the notification bell so you don't miss our episodes. And finally, as I do say, you know, we appreciate all the support that you guys give. If you want to become a Patreon member and have your name featured at the end of the video, as well as some other benefits, and get to, you know, speak to these amazing guest speakers that we've had one-to-one, please do click on the link in our bio. But yeah, thank you very much, Erica, one more time. Thank you again, wonderful listeners. And yeah, keep an eye out for our next episode, which will be the last episode of season 2. I know it's felt like season 2 has just come and gone like that, but that is life, you know. It feels like everything's going quickly. But yeah, I won't keep you guys in anticipation for much longer. You'll see the next episode come out soon, so just keep an eye out. And yeah, wishing you all the best and have a great day.